Shedeur Sanders was inactive. No warning. No injury report. No explanation. And the fans? They weren't just confused, they were furious. Jerseys had been bought. Hype videos had been played. Highlight reels were memorized like scripture. Shedeur, the son of Deion "Primetime" Sanders, the college football phenom with charisma, leadership, and undeniable talent, was supposed to bring new life to a team starved for it. Instead, he sat.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
On the bench, in street clothes, as the Browns did what the Browns do best, squander opportunity and invite confusion. This wasn't just a personnel choice. This was a statement. And the silence around it? That was louder than any explanation could have been. Because when a rookie quarterback with this much hype, this much spotlight, and this much promise is suddenly sidelined with no warning, it doesn't feel like strategy. It feels like politics. It feels like control. It feels like a message. And fans weren't having it. Within minutes, social media lit up like a bonfire. #FreeShedeur trended on X. Comment sections exploded. Everyone, from casual fans to analysts to conspiracy-loving uncles, wanted to know, why was Shedeur Sanders benched? And more importantly, who made the call? Because it wasn't performance-related. He hadn't played yet. It wasn't injury-related. There were no reports. No tweaks, no sprains, nothing. And it certainly wasn't about readiness. This is a guy who walked into his college program and ran the offense like a veteran from day one. This is someone who's been in the media spotlight since he was a teenager, who's trained under Deion, who understands pressure better than half the league starters. So what was it? Let's look at the theories, because oh yes, there are theories. And honestly, they're not that crazy. Theory number 1, the control the narrative move. Some insiders believe this was intentional silencing. A power move by the coaching staff, or maybe even higher up, to pump the brakes on the Shedeur hype train before it gained too much steam. Because let's be real, his arrival in Cleveland wasn't quiet. It was a media event. Jersey sales, press, national interviews. Clips of him warming up in preseason got more views than some teams' highlight reels. And that makes some people in traditional NFL circles uncomfortable. Old school coaches, conservative GMs, ownership groups who still think social media is a distraction. They don't like players who own the narrative, who build brands, who walk in with cameras, followers, and expectations before they've taken a snap. So what do? They flex. They bench. They say, this is our team, not yours. And if that's what happened here, if this was a premeditated move to send a message about hierarchy, then it wasn't just about Shedeur, it was about fear. Fear of losing control. Fear of new era athletes who refuse to shrink themselves to fit the system. But here's the thing, this isn't the 1990s anymore. The system is changing, and Shedeur isn't going anywhere. Theory number 2, strategic protection. Then there's the softer theory, that the benching was a strategic decision made to protect Sanders from pressure, preserve him for later, and ease him into the league slowly. Now, okay, fine. That would make sense on paper. We've seen teams do this. Sit the rookie. Let the vet start. Don't throw the kid into the fire too soon. But that logic falls apart fast when you remember. The Browns don't have a franchise quarterback right now. They don't have a proven winner under center. They're a team that, despite having the talent, has lacked identity, rhythm, and leadership at QB for years. So why not give the rookie with the highest football IQ in the room a headset, at minimum? Let him warm up. Let him suit up. But they didn't even do that. They made him inactive. Not second string. Not backup. Inactive. That's a choice. And the more you think about it, the less it feels like development. And the more it feels like a deliberate statement. Theory number 3, a silent power struggle. Now here's where it gets juicy. What if this isn't just about Sanders? What if it's about who brought him in? Rumors have swirled since preseason that not everyone in the Browns organization was on board with drafting Shedeur. Some saw him as Dion's kid riding a wave of hype. Others believed he would bring too much attention to a locker room that, frankly, struggles under pressure. But someone fought to bring him in. Ownership? Marketing execs? Someone with clout saw the future in Shedeur and said, he's our guy. And now, there's tension. A battle for influence. One side wants to feature him. The other wants to manage him. Keep him humble. Keep him in check. Keep him from taking up too much oxygen before earning it. So what's the easiest way to do that? You pull him off the field. Quietly. Without saying a word. But here's the problem. The silence is screaming. The fans noticed. The media noticed. And Shedeur? Oh, he noticed too. He showed up at that game looking confident, locked in, and ready. No limp. No hesitation. No injury report. And when he sat, you could see the fire behind his eyes. He didn't complain. He didn't make a scene. But you better believe he felt it. And that brings us to the heart of this entire thing. This isn't just about a roster spot. It's about power. It's about identity. It's about the evolution of the NFL. Shedeur Sanders is not just a quarterback. He's a media-savvy, brand-conscious, modern athlete. He's part of a generation that doesn't just play the game. They own their narrative. And for old guard NFL teams, that's threatening. But guess what? This is the future. Players like Shedeur aren't going to fade into the background. They're not going to wait their turn just because someone says so. They're going to work, grow, grind. And when they do get their shot, they're going to be ready. So maybe the Browns benched him to make a point. But they might have just made a bigger one without realizing it. Because now the fans are watching. Now the spotlight is brighter. And now Shedeur's eventual debut? It's going to feel like a movement. So what happens next? Does Shedeur stay patient and wait for the door to open? Does the coaching staff realize the tidal wave they're holding back? Or does this become the beginning of another Cleveland cautionary tale, where politics once again gets in the way of progress? One thing's clear. This kid isn't just a player. He's a symbol. A line in the sand between the NFL's past and its future. And the longer he sits, the louder that message gets. So what do you think? Was this a smart strategic move or a tone-deaf attempt at control? Should Shedeur Sanders already be in pads? Or are the Browns playing the long game? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's talk benchings, branding, and the brutal politics of modern football. And don't forget to subscribe. Because if this saga is already this wild in week 1, just imagine what happens when Shedeur finally touches the field. Trust me, we're just getting started. Shedeur Sanders, inactive in week 1, watching from the sidelines as his team battles, collapses, and leaves fans asking, what if? What if the Browns had let him dress? What if he was there in the huddle? What if that calming leadership we saw in college, the poise, the presence, the football IQ, was what the Browns needed in the moment, not later, not eventually, but right now? But instead, the Browns made their choice, and they said it with silence. And now that silence is echoing louder than any game day announcer ever could. Because here's the thing that the old guard in the NFL still doesn't get. We're living in the era of visibility. Players aren't faceless warriors anymore. They're brands. They're voices. They're content creators. They're cultural figures. They shape the league as much as the league shapes them. And Shedeur Sanders? He's very much part of that new wave. He's the quarterback who shows up on podcasts. He's the QB who connects directly with fans through behind-the-scenes videos, training clips, mic'd-up practices. He doesn't need the league to introduce him to the world. He already built his own audience. And that scares the old-school machine. Because if a player doesn't need the team to control the story, well, then who really holds the power? The Browns had a decision in week 1. Embrace that shift or try to contain it. They chose containment. And that may have just lit the fuse on a cultural explosion far bigger than they're prepared for. Because this isn't just a rookie being benched. This is the rookie, the one fans were already ready to rally behind. The one who represented change. The one who represented hope. And when hope gets silenced, people notice. People react. People revolt. And right now, that revolt is brewing. You've got fans flooding comment sections, begging for answers. You've got analysts on morning shows saying something doesn't add up. You've got speculation flying faster than a 2-minute drill. Some are saying this is a power move by the head coach, that he's asserting control, trying to keep the locker room quiet, that he didn't want to set the precedent that media darlings get special treatment. But others think this is coming from even higher, that this came from the front office or even ownership, people who want to manage Shedeur's rise carefully, because the last thing they want is another franchise QB controversy before the season even finds its footing. But here's the problem with managing a media star like Shedeur. You can't contain authenticity. You can't silence someone who's already had a voice before he even took a professional snap. The NFL may be a league of systems, but Shedeur Sanders is not a system player. He's not here to sit quietly in the corner and wait for his opportunity like it's a government-issued ration. He's here to compete, to lead, to win. And you could see it in his face on the sideline. He didn't look bitter. He didn't look defeated. He looked ready, but held back. And that's the heartbreak. Not just for Shedeur, but for the fans, for the city, for a franchise that's been here before, with potential right in front of them, only to let politics, fear, and dysfunction smother it. History lesson, anyone? How many quarterbacks have passed through Cleveland over the last 20 years? 25? 30? How many of them were thrown into the fire too soon? How many were stashed too long? How many were mismanaged, mismatched, misunderstood? The Browns don't just ruin seasons. They ruin potential. And that's what fans are terrified of. That Shedeur Sanders is going to be the next name on the long list of what could have beens in Cleveland lore. That his legacy might start with a whisper instead of the roar it deserves. But maybe, just maybe, this is part of a bigger story. Because every great quarterback has their moment of doubt. Patrick Mahomes sat behind Alex Smith. Aaron Rodgers sat behind Brett Favre. Even Tom Brady had to wait his turn. Maybe this is Shedeur's wait. Maybe this is the tension before the rise. Or maybe, just maybe, he's being delayed not because he isn't ready, but because the team isn't. Because the culture isn't. Because the system he's walking into is still operating on a playbook from 2005, where quarterbacks are seen, not heard. Where media attention is a liability, not an asset. Where individuality is a threat to team chemistry. But let's be honest, the NFL is changing. The players are the brand. The players are the voice. And if the Browns don't figure out how to adapt, they're going to fall even further behind. Because here's the reality. Keeping Shedeur inactive didn't kill the spotlight. It intensified it. You think benching him made people forget? It made him trend. It made him a talking point. It made him a martyr for a new generation of athletes. And the longer they keep him in that hoodie on the sidelines, the more dangerous it gets for the Browns' leadership. Not because Shedeur's doing anything wrong, but because the fans are already starting to wonder, why keep a future franchise quarterback in the shadows? And you can feel it building. Every press conference that avoids the question. Every vague coaching decision response. Every moment another QB struggles. The pressure grows. And when Shedeur finally does get his shot, because you know he will, it's not just going to be a debut. It's going to be a statement. Because he's not just fighting for a spot on the roster anymore. He's fighting for what he represents. Authenticity, visibility, player-first culture. A new era of leadership that isn't afraid of the spotlight. And when he gets in the game, he's not just going to throw passes. He's going to flip the script. Because what's more dangerous than a quarterback with talent? A quarterback with something to prove. So Browns fans, this might not be the start you wanted, but it might be the start we needed. The tension, the drama, the silence. It's all building toward a moment. And when that moment comes, Shedeur won't just be ready. He'll be unstoppable. So drop your theories in the comments. Was this benching politics? Strategy? Ego? And don't forget to subscribe. Because if this is how the season starts, you better believe it's only going to get more chaotic from here. And you know we'll be watching. Because the NFL is changing. and Shedeur Sanders is the signal caller of a revolution. That's the question on everyone's mind right now. Because this doesn't just go away. You don't bench a high-profile rookie with one of the most recognizable names in football without warning, without injury, and without explanation, and then expect the world to move on. This isn't just another roster shuffle. This is Shedeur Sanders. This is the kid with millions of eyes on him before he ever even touched an NFL field. The son of prime time. The quarterback whose college stats, mental discipline, and leadership skills already had analysts drawing comparisons to seasoned veterans. The player who carried not just expectation, but cultural weight. And now, after one silent week, one disappearance, the Browns have a problem. Because silence? It works for a moment. But in the world of sports media, silence only lasts until someone fills it. And right now, fans are filling it with questions, speculation, and a growing wave of resentment. Let's look at what's really at stake here. The Browns didn't just bench a rookie quarterback. They benched a symbol of change, of a new kind of athlete, of the next generation of football, the kind that doesn't play quiet, the kind that knows how to balance branding with balling, the kind that walks into a locker room already knowing who he is. That's power. That's energy. That's movement. And by trying to contain that, to manage the rollout, to cool the hype, or whatever phrase they're hiding behind, Cleveland may have just lit a fire they can't put out. Because here's what the team might not be ready for. Shedeur's not the one who needs to prove himself right now. The Browns are. They're the ones with a reputation for ruining quarterbacks. They're the ones who have chewed up and spit out young talent for 2 decades. They're the ones who say trust the system, when the system has only led to heartbreak, confusion, and memes about factory sadness. And now? You want fans to believe this benching was part of the plan? Okay, cool. Then here's a thought. Where was the transparency? If this was strategic, say that. If it was health-related, show the report. If it was about locker room readiness, own it. Say something. Because the longer the silence stretches, the more the conspiracy machine spins. And trust me, right now it's spinning hard. Some fans think this is a clash between Shedeur's camp and the coaching staff. That maybe Shedeur's media team posted something the wrong way. Or he stepped on someone's ego with one too many interviews. Or maybe the Browns just weren't ready for the circus they knew would come the moment his name was on that active roster. Others think it goes deeper. That ownership wants to slow roll his rise to avoid another media blowout. That there's internal division. That there are whispers about keeping Shedeur humble before the spotlight finds him fully. Which, let's be honest, is hilarious. You don't keep humble a player who's already lived under national attention since he was in high school. You don't ease into the league someone who's had NFL expectations hanging over his head like a chandelier for half a decade. This kid doesn't need media training. He is media trained. His life has been media training. And let's get real. If the concern was about distractions, the distraction isn't Shedeur's presence. It's his absence. Because now, instead of talking about the Week 1 game, the plays, the decisions, the stats, everyone's talking about the guy who didn't even suit up. Now that's irony. And the Browns? They walked right into it. Because here's what the front office should have seen coming. This isn't the early 2000s. You can't quietly sit a high-profile rookie and expect no one to ask questions. You can't dodge press conferences and think fans will accept the coach's decision. Line like it's gospel. Not when the guy you're sidelining is the literal embodiment of the new NFL. Not when he's already a star. And maybe that's the core issue here. Maybe the problem isn't what Shedeur represents. It's that he represents it so well. He's confident, media literate, unapologetically visible, and still hardworking, humble, and locked in. A rare balance. But that visibility, that comfort in the spotlight, that shifts the power dynamic. And in old-school NFL culture, that can be uncomfortable. Because when a player shows up with a following, a story, and a platform, before the team has crafted their own narrative around him, that makes some people nervous. Because you can't control the rollout. You can't control the message. And if you can't control the message, are you even in charge? That's the conversation happening behind closed doors. Maybe not in those exact words, but in tone, in energy, in decision-making. Because this wasn't about game day strategy. Let's stop pretending it was. This was about optics. This was about ego. This was about hierarchy. But here's the miscalculation. Shedeur doesn't need to overthrow the system to win. He just needs to wait. Wait and stay ready. Because here's the one truth no politics, no playbook, and no outdated management style can outrun. Talent wins. And Shedeur has it. You can delay it. You can bench it. You can try to bury it in coach's decision vagueness. But you can't deny it. Not forever. Because eventually, the quarterback carousel will spin again. The team will stumble. The fans will chant louder. The media will ask harder questions. And when that moment comes, the Browns will have a choice. Double down on control or let the future play. And when Shedeur gets a shot, because make no mistake, it's coming. It won't just be a debut. It will be a reckoning. It will be all the tension, all the waiting, all the speculation poured into 4 quarters of football that'll feel more like a referendum than a game. Because it won't just be about his performance. It'll be about whether the Browns finally learned to stop fearing the spotlight and start leaning into it. Whether they're finally ready to embrace the kind of player who doesn't just bring a strong arm and a sharp mind, but a platform. Whether this team, this city, can finally stop clinging to the past and let itself step into a new era. Not just of football, but of identity. So, yeah, Shedeur was inactive in week 1. But what happens when he's finally active? What happens when all that tension turns into movement? What happens when the city of Cleveland stops waiting for its quarterback to arrive and realizes he's been here all along, just benched by fear? Because that day is coming. And when it does, it won't be quiet. It'll be prime time.